And you can get going, Sharon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Diana. Good morning, good evening, everyone. If you're joining from here or around the world, thank you for joining our third and final session on Career Talk. Today, we're going to talk about skill development in the era of generative AI. So, before we dive into that, if you have been in the community, welcome to our community. If not, welcome and join. You can join our community through the forum or our community blog. I'll add that notes in the chat where you can join our community. It's community.uipath.com or forum.uipath.com. So before I dive into the session today, I've got a request for all those who have attended today. We are looking forward to improve our chapter, and we want to know and we want to hear from you how you would like to, how you would like to improve your professional or personal career with the help of the chapter. So if you can scan the QR code and let us know and give us a feedback on how our chapter is doing, if we are doing the right events, or if you'd like to see any different subjects talked about, please feel free to add the feedback. The feedback is anonymous, and the purpose of it is for us to understand the direction we should take in our future events. So I'll give it about a couple of seconds for you to scan the QR code. You don't have to do it right now, just as long as you have that link, it should be fine. You can think about and give us a feedback on what you'd like to see the community or even the Americas community in the future. Okay. So, what's today's session about? So today we are going to talk about generative AI. So generative AI, Gen AI, ChatGPT, and all those buzzwords on Gen AI has been talked about for a bit in the market. And I hope you have a little bit of experience on what they are. If not, it's completely fine. I'm here to walk you through on a high level view on what Gen AI is and how it's implemented in today's market. So next up, we're going to talk about how UiPath implements generative AI and the limitations and the risks that comes with it, which you need to be aware of if you are going to be a developer or even a professional who's implementing artificial intelligence solutions. And next, and most importantly, I'm going to talk about how you can upskill yourself, learn more technology-based education on generative AI, and how you can begin from a beginner's point and what options there are for you in the market today. Okay. So today we have myself, Sharon, and we have Diana Gray, who's the UiPath Community Manager for Americas. Diana, thank you for the continuous support you do to the Denver chapter and to the Americas community. And thank you for being here and for the support you've given here today. And a little bit of intro about myself. I'm Sharon Palawandram. I am a senior machine learning consultant at Ashling Partners. So my day-to-day life at Ashling is where I build machine learning and artificial intelligence models using UiPath document understanding and other technologies. I'm also UiPath MVP for 2023 and UiPath's AI ambassador to Americas. So let's dive into Career Talk. So if you've been to the first and second sessions of Career Talk, thank you for being there. If not, the recordings are there on the community for you to view. The first and second sessions, the first section, we talked about transitioning from an RPA to AI professional. And the second session we talked about with Hannah and Lahiru was unlock career opportunities in intelligent automation. And today we will dive in, as we spoke before, on how generative AI is impacting the market, little knowledge, skill talk, and let's dive in. Awesome. So what's generative AI and what's the hype around it? So if you can see on the left side, this was actually a chart that was built by the Time magazine that UiPath shared in their Forward 6 event last year. So if you can see, generative AI and the ChatGPT adoption has been very fast compared to other technologies, and it's considered to surpass human performance. And we see a high adoption rate in the market compared to other technologies. If you think about the internet or Bluetooth or even the smartphone, it took a couple of months or years to get adapted, but ChatGPT and Gen AI was adapted in the span of 3 months. So, what does that mean? It means that a lot of people or a lot of industries have been adapting this at a faster rate because it has that technology implementation and value that it brings to make your life easier. So, a from a technology standpoint, generative AI comes within the bigger umbrella of artificial intelligence. So, from hindsight, Gen AI is technically a branch of artificial intelligence that helps you generate content or such as text or images from human input without human inputted data. And how it does it uses large language models to make that happen. So if you see on the right side how generative AI comes within the bucket of machine learning and deep learning. So what that means is it uses the large language models to intelligently use generative AI algorithms to generate outputs. So if we look at the industry, on the left side, you'd see a Gartner report that says how generative AI is going to be primarily focused to be implemented in the industry. So today, if we see how Gen AI is actually implemented in real life use cases, you'd see a lot of them are being used for customer experience, such as chatbots. Chatbots are very QA based, question answering based. So that is a great example of generative AI because it creates that QA experience with historical data that's specific to the client. And then you see revenue growths using different strategies like document understanding. And even in finance, you can have financial analysis and fraud detection that is encompassed with the use of generative AI. So this also helps industries cost optimize, but they are mostly using, you'd see there's an upward trend on the growth and the experience side of a both user and the business. So if you have any questions throughout this or want to know more, please feel free to add it in the chat because I am giving you high level views because I want to dive deep into the other topics. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. So how does UiPath use generative AI? So UiPath and Gen AI has been in the works, I'd say, since last year. UiPath, if you have been in the forum, especially in document understanding, generative AI is slowly pivoting to gain a big space. You see generative extractor, generative classifier that has been implemented. And if you're in the insider, you see active learning that was recently, I think 2 weeks ago, it was launched as a public preview, which uses Gen AI technology to build a machine learning model, which is a very interesting thing because it says that it's going to reduce your development efforts by at least 80% using Gen AI. So that's essentially what the art of the possible is when you implement artificial intelligence into automation. So AI with automation, especially at UiPath, has been there for a while. If you see document understanding had those AI compatibility and AI capabilities with document understanding machine learning models, where you could build ML models out of the box or even with Scratch. Now it's diving more into the generative AI offerings, but still having that artificial component pretended with it. So this is the ecosphere of the UiPath AI-powered automation capabilities. You'd see this term popping up called specialized AI. So if you see that, I believe that's a UiPath centric terminology, specialized AI, which essentially means you use the AI compatibility as well as automation to provide that specialized AI enhancement for your intelligent automation process. So a couple of AI powered automations that UiPath gives. I'm going to take document understanding because document understanding is something that I work every single day. Um, Document understanding, like I mentioned, has been historically compatible with machine learning models. When we think about building ML models, it had that AI algorithm that was supporting it. And now it's moving more towards generative AI with the extraction classification as well as active work. So that I think that encompasses the UiPath document understanding and AI center. If you think about communication mining is a product that offers intelligent information from large data sets, such as emails, where you can use communication mining to understand that intent of that email and understand significant data of that email. So Clipboard AI is another tool that uses intelligence and artificial intelligence to intelligently capture what's there in the screen and capture it as a clipboard and intelligently use it without a no code technology. So on the left side, you'd see the generative AI with different hyperscalers like Microsoft, OpenAI, AWS, and Google Cloud. So what does that mean? So if you think about integrating something with the technologies that are already existing in the market today, UiPath provides that compatibility through integration service. So if you want to use a generative AI model that's Azure OpenAI based, you can use that in an intelligent automation process with Microsoft. And how you do that is through integration service. And the same is true for OpenAI, AWS, and Google Cloud. If you go to UiPath on YouTube, they have a session on how they integrate the studio workflow with OpenAI and prompt questions from it. That was a very fundamental thing that they did as soon as OpenAI launched ChatGPT. You can integrate that with the studio workflow and have that question answering prompt, which is very nice to do because you don't have to go explicitly to ChatGPT and do it. You can have that studio workflow and integrate it into an existing automation or a new automation that you do. All right, so we've talked about what generative AI is and how it's being used in the industry and the market today, and how UiPath uses AI as well as generative AI and the products that they are using currently. So next, I want to share this new automation and AI trends that UiPath released recently. So there is a link to it. I will actually share that with you in a second. Let's see. I think I'll share that. I'll have to Google it. So essentially, why this is an interesting read is because it is a latest release from UiPath that talks about how the industry is using AI and generative AI, which is a very interesting read because they have done a lot of research. And this is a white paper that they release every single year depicting where the AI world and the automation world is going to head in 2024 and the upcoming years. So it's a very interesting read if you like to read about it. I've added the link in the chat. You'll have to register and then you'll get the white paper to read about that. But here I've actually shared a couple of slides that they've said what the AI trends in 2024 are. So some of them are actually ones that we talked about, right? How AI is going to drive value and growth, and how AI is compatible with automation. So that would be those first two where the C-suite is seeing AI value. And the second one is how AI plus automation gets adapted very, very fast. And then the third one is the organizations come into an end-to-end focus. AI-powered capabilities built around process mining and task mining create continuous visibility and improvement for organizations' inner working. So this is actually something true that we see today as well. So you use AI and automation from an end-to-end solution, not just in process mining and task mining, but all encompassing throughout the UiPath um, technology offer. So next is the the purpose of our session today, how generative AI empowers the next level of, reinventing how we work. So that's a true fact. And then how there's automate leads into the future of work by leveraging AI. Another reason why we're having the call a session today. And then how safe AI becomes a focus of action and innovation. So, safe AI or responsible AI is something that you need to know, and which is imperative to know if you ever go into implement Gen AI or any other AI solutions. A true technology leader should know the limitations and the proactiveness to a technology that they use and make sure that they're evangelists of that before they do anything else, because sometimes what happens is you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver if you're a developer or if you're a responsible person developing a solution. So let's talk a little bit of that on our next slides. But I want to touch base on the seventh objective that they're shown in the trends is how we begin the work of redefining work. So I think that is, shown throughout everything we do in Gen AI, document understanding, and all the technologies. The baseline of it is redefining work, redefine how we work, redefine how we see work, and redefine how we use efficiency and performance in organizations. So this is a very interesting read how they've used data to identify the trends. And if you see the trend four, which is the LLMs power the virtual BFFs, which essentially talks about how Gen AI and LLMs will significantly impact organizations within the next 3 to 5 years. You're gonna see a huge bump on Gen AI adoption within the next 10 years. If you think about 2022, now you're 2024. So within the next 8 years, you're going to see at least a 10x bump in adoption. And the next one that the document has is that safe AI. So when you develop any sort of artificial intelligence model, it's imperative to know the limitations of it. And a lot of organizations, when they go into generative AI adoption, the first thing that they talk about is what's the security around it, especially when it comes to ChatGPT. Organizations don't implement that because it's an open source data set, and you'd want the data retained within your own infrastructure if you're using it. So that's where safe harbors come into place. Even UiPath has something called the trust layer, where the data is retained within the UiPath space. And that's true for other technology partners like Azure. They have Azure OpenAI, where the data doesn't leave their system. It's retained within their system. So interesting read and good things to note when you are diving deep into the world of Gen AI. So this is another slide that was shared with Forward last year, where they were emphasizing the challenges and the solutions, essentially talking about the limitations of generative AI. So one of the known limitations was the lack of security or the need for security. So that's where, as we talked about, we think about how we need to deploy a solution within that infrastructure, within that safe infrastructure, and how we need to make sure that our data set is retended within that within that infrastructure. And then the lack of specialized knowledge. So I think there was a story recently where somebody went into a chatbot into an automation company. So what the company was doing is the company was selling cars, and they had a chatbot which helped use support customers. So what happened was the customer went inside the chatbot and he was like, I want to purchase a truck. And the chatbot was like, okay, let me help you purchase the truck. So what the customer has done is the customer has made the chatbot think that the vehicle to purchase was $1, and the chatbot has confirmed and made it legally binding and actually given the customer a truck for $1. So that is some of the hallucinations that happens when we use a open source data set. We need to specifically iterate to the data set that there are known limitations, there are things you can do and you cannot do, and there are implications that you can actually train the model to learn and be specific for your industry when you implement it. So those kind of hallucinations are important to know as well when you develop a Gen AI model. You wouldn't go and say, hey, this model is great, this model is good, it's the best thing in the world. I don't think we do that because, just like any technology, generative AI models also have limitations. And it's important to know and advocate for it because if you are a technology person, business users wouldn't know what you know in terms of hallucination, security, and the limitations of Gen AI. So it would be your responsibility to let the business users know or anyone who's using the tool know on the limitations and proactively seek methods how you can mitigate those risks. So how do you implement solutions? So on the right side, you'd see the centralized governance and control. So that's what it is when we talk about UiPath's trust layer, for example. It's that centralized governance that you have, that you use your LLM or generative AI model within a trusted infrastructure. Your data is retended within that infrastructure, and you have that governance and security measures in place. And then the model will be fine-tuned. So when you have an LLM, let's talk about an LLM because that's the baseline of a generative AI model. You can retrain the LLM with specific data to what you're building in. So let's say, for example, you're building a chatbot that's going to be used in financial services within your organization. So how you can refine the model is you can retrain the model with your specific data specific to your finances. Now, when you think about the data, first of and foremost, there would be an data engineering step where you need to identify what kind of data you're going to feed. Are they sensitive information or are they publicly available information within your organization? So based on that, you can refine and retune the data that you're going to do. If we think about UiPath, there's this term called active learning, which is the new learning capability for machine learning models that's using generative AI. So what you can do is if you're building a model from UiPath, you can use active learning and use those data to actively teach the model how to learn and predict with the data that you feed it. And the next thing is human in the loop. So whenever you have something that's getting predicted, a nice way to refine the model is human in the loop, where you have a human manually review the data and see if it's correct or if it's biased or if it's not correct. And you can do those changes and retrain the model. So this human in the loop is already available in UiPath's AI Center. So if you're developing AI models, you can use human in the loop to actually give feedback and have a feedback loop that would reiterate the model and train it to make it better further. All right. So this was something that's shared by David Barber. He's the director of artificial AI at UiPath. And one thing that he says is the good thing is LLMs are built like the human brain. So they're good at cognitive tasks. The bad thing is they're built like the human brain in the sense that they're also failable. So I've seen UiPath use this term saying that AI is the brain and automation is the body. So that is actually I think that's a true statement. And when it comes to the brain or even AI, it's a challenge because as good it is, it could also be um, hallucinating or bad sometimes. So you really need to have that logic. Humans, we would have that logic to actually see what's good and bad, but then the model wouldn't have that, and you'd need to train it and you need to tell it what's good and bad. So that's the idea on this, phrase. I think that's a very interesting phrase that they use the human brain to talk about it because generative AI is a part of deep learning, and deep learning is the algorithm that mimics the human brain. So, like any technology, like I've iterated before, it's good to know the limitations and the security risks that come with it. All right. So, this is a little bit of a graph that was released by Deloitte and MIT, I believe, in 2020. So this talks about how generative AI needs responsible AI. So what is responsible AI? Now, responsible AI is actually a term that can is also translated to trustworthy AI. It's also, they call it the trust layer. So all of this actually means the same thing, the safe harbor of how we use Gen AI. So, some things that you need to know when you develop a generative AI model is what's depicted in this wheelhouse, how it needs to be transparent, how data needs to be fair, reliable, have privacy, have a safe harbor, and be responsible. And when you encompass all of this, that's where you make your data to be all of this all encountered, and you build that in a trusted layer of infrastructure and you implement trusted generative AI practices. All right. So next up, path forward in generative AI and continuous learning. So the reason that we have this part on the path forward on Gen AI is for you to upskill yourself. So when any new technology comes into place, if you're working in a technology specific industry and want to upskill yourself, it's always good to be a continuous learner or even a lifelong learner. So where should I start with generative AI? So what this is talking about is if you want to develop a Gen AI model, where you should start. So first and foremost, let's talk about UiPath. If you're in the UiPath space, say you're an RP developer or you're not, you're an AI professional, you're a product manager, I think this would encounter all spaces of careers just to know how you can implement UiPath. UiPath has off the shelf or what they call out of the box machine learning models that are already available in AI Center. Now, if you go to forum, I think the first thing you'll see is generative extraction and generative classifier are now available in public preview, and you can test them out. So Gen AI extractor and classifier are excellent tools to use generative AI because what it does, it intelligently extracts information without custom building an ML model, how it does, it actually uses generative AI as a model, and that's how you get to automatically classify and extract documents. So next, I'd like to call out the Gen AI powered active learning. Now, if you're a UiPath insider, this is something that's been in public preview for the last 2 weeks. So this is where if you're developing a machine learning model out of the box from scratch, active learning is a great way for you to see how your model can be built with the use of Gen AI. So previously, if you built a machine learning model, this is how it's being done in UiPath. You'd have to collect a good amount of data, which you need to do, which we call as data engineering, right? You have to select the data which actually makes sense. In production, you need to see if the data is actually if the data makes sense to the data that's being going to be extracted in production. And that's how you collect the data that's to be made into the ML model. Next, what you need to do is you need to upload the data into the ML model at UiPath. And we do this at AI Center, which is a product within Orchestrator at UiPath. You upload the data and then you label the fields, the columns, and values that you need to capture with the machine learning model. So once you label the data, what you do is you train a machine learning model and you deploy it. And then you call that model from Studio, and then you have it with your extractor. And that's how you extract values and fields from documents that you send in to your automation. So what active learning does, it actually takes that machine learning part where you train, label, and deploy the machine learning model, and it reduces that effort by 80%. So what it would do is it would intelligently predict the fields and values from the first couple of documents that you actually train. So you don't need to explicitly go and train and then you get the prediction. It would automatically do it and just let you know how it's being done. So that's a very, very interesting product that I'm very excited to see come into a production. So that's something good to know on how Gen AI is being used in ML model deployment. Next is prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the art of building prompts for question answering or chatbots. So from UiPath, like I mentioned before, with integration service, you can connect a ChatGPT connector, or if you have other technologies like Azure OpenAI, you can use that connector to connect with an automation. And that's why we talk about ChatGPT and Azure AI platform. So you can also build custom generative AI models. If you're an expert and if you're a little bit into the Gen AI space, you can build your own model. That's what we call BYOM and UiPath. You can do this again with active learning or without, even with your out of the box machine learning capabilities at AI Center, you can do that. And if you go out of UiPath and use other technologies, you can build custom GPT models with Azure or with OpenAI. So if you're looking into the space of educating yourself, I would highly recommend these four courses for you to take. So the first, actually, all of them are free. So you can try if you're familiar with Coursera. Coursera is an excellent tool that provides free education, but if you need to get the certificate, I believe you probably need to pay a couple of dollars. But just if you are just looking to learn and see what it is, it's actually going to be free. So machine learning specialization by Andrew Ng is a fantastic course if you are learning, if you want to know more about machine learning and the algorithms and the infrastructure that goes behind it. So it's a little bit deep if you are already into the computer science and ML space. This would be a good topic for you to take. If not, if you're just wanting to know what AI is, what Gen AI is from a business standpoint or a foundational standpoint, AI for everyone is also an excellent course for you to take. And the next one I think is very interesting is within Coursera, there's Google Cloud that offers introduction to generative AI. So if you need to know a little bit more on what Gen AI is, Google Cloud, you can try that Google Cloud as well. So lastly, and most importantly, I want to touch base on UiPath's introduction to specialized AI. Now, this is a free course that's available within the Academy. So I'm going to add the link on the chat. It's going to be academy.uipath.com. So what you can do is go to academy.uipath.com. You can type in UiPath Introduction to Specialized AI, and it's going to give you a topic on a course on what you can do. So I'm going to share my next screen on actually what it is. So yesterday I went in to Academy and I actually took a screenshot on what Introduction to Specialized AI course offers. So this course actually talks about how AI and automation work hand in hand and how they are compatible and why they are compatible and how they would be better together. And again, it talks about why Gen AI needs specialized AI. A little bit of a high level concept on what machine learning is and what natural language processing concepts are. And the next one is the platform components with specialized AI and how a specialized AI professional is. So this is a nice subject to take if you're actually in the RPA space already and you want to know what is talked about in specialized AI and you can dive a little bit deeper. If you are more interested, there is actually the specialized AI professional certificate, the specialization of specialized AI professional. So you can take that too, but that takes a little bit of document understanding and communications mining experience. But nevertheless, it's a great subject and course for you to take. It's free, and I've taken it. So I think that it was an excellent course just to refresh your memory, and it actually dives deeper into how document understanding is, how a machine learning model is created, and what communications mining is, how it's created, how it's done, and how you can build your own CM or DU project. So let me see if I can. I don't think I can. So sorry. I don't think I can share the link, but I've added the Academy link on the chat. Oh, there you go, Diana. Thank you for sharing the link. So you can go in and check the link and you can register for it. So that ends our session for today. I know I've given a talk of 45 minutes and I'm keeping the rest of the 15 minutes to answer the questions in the chat. But if you also want to unmute yourself and talk about, ask a question, feel free to go through that. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check on the questions. And in the meantime, again, if you are joining our community, here are the objectives you can explore. All right.
Sharon, I can ask you the first couple of questions that I see.
Sure. Thank
The
you.
first one is OpenAI LLM. Is it public LLM via ChatGPT or specific LLM licensed to UiPath?
Yeah, I can see that question. VS, thanks a lot for asking this. So I want to separate this question a bit because you're talking about OpenAI LLM. Is it public LLM via ChatGPT or specific LLM licensed to UiPath? So when we talk about generative extractor and generative classifier, those are UiPath products and they are called with UiPath specific LLMs. So they'll be within the UiPath LLM trust layer and they're not going to be called with OpenAI or anything. If you're using a connector, that is, you want to connect with an external service like OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, that would be up to you. So you will make the decision if you're going to connect it with OpenAI or if you're going to connect it with Azure OpenAI. So that would be a separate, consideration for you to make on the governance of it. But if you're thinking about the LLMs and generative AI products offered within UiPath, they are actually within UiPath, and it has that UiPath data retention within UiPath's AI Trust Layer. So the data is not going to go all over the place. It's not going to go to OpenAI. It's not going to go to any other partner. It's just going to be within UiPath. So I hope that answers your question. And you have another part to it, right? Does UiPath use GPT-3 or GPT-4? That's a great question. I actually don't know what the GPT model that Generative Extractor used. I believe the last time I checked it was 3.5, but I'm not sure if it's GPT-4, but I can find that out to you. So I will check that information and let you know.
And then the next question we have is, does the generative extractor classifier are available in document understanding as well? Or is it only confined to the AI center?
That's a great question. So Gen AI extractor and classifier is actually available in document understanding. It's something separate from AI Center. So if you've used document understanding in Studio and you use classifiers and extractors, you'd see in classifiers, some of the existing classifiers are intelligent keyword classifier, machine learning classifier, or even keyword-based classifier. So generative AI classifier is an addition to those classifier tools that they have. So now you can actually use generative classifier within Studio and you don't need to build any model or anything that's compatible. You just add that generative AI classifier from the, what do I say, from packages and you can use it. And the same goes to Gen Extractor. So you've been using machine learning extractor before, so Gen AI extractor would be something same, but you don't have to explicitly, confine it in AI Center.
Thanks, Sharon. And then
Absolutely.
another question that we had are, do you have any recommendations for how to prepare for the specialized AI UiPath certification?
Gotcha. Thanks, Tushar, for the question. So if you're going to specialized AI, first and foremost, my recommendation is that you do a couple of projects on document understanding and process mining. Now, these don't have to be production cases or you don't need to extensively do it. What I mean is you at least have that experience on developing a document understanding model in Studio. So that way you understand what taxonomy is. You understand what goes into taxonomy, classifier, extractor, and post extract. So you understand that ecosystem of document understanding as well as communications mining. So once you have that, I'd recommend you go through the entire course at UiPath Academy. They have a specialized AI course that walks through all of the details that they're going to ask for the specialized AI exam. And then next, what you can do is they have a sample question for specialized AI. It's like a mock exam for specialized AI. So you take that, and if you pass, I'd say if you pass more than 85% in that examination, I would say you are confidently ready and prepared to take that certification. So that was the path that I took, and that's the path that I recommend for you to take your time, but it's good to follow all of those steps before you take this specialized AI UiPath specification.
Thanks, Sharon. And then
Absolutely.
we have another question from Priya. This is regarding UiPath Clipboard AI tool, and it has a quota of 100 copy paste actions. What happens when all the copy paste actions are consumed?
That's a great question again to Priya. I'm not sure if you can extend the AI quota based on what you need. That should be. But this is something that I would need to research and get back to you. So I think, Diana, will I be able to get visibility to their emails?
Yeah, I'll put those in a
Okay.
email to you. Yep,
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll actually research these questions. I know I have VS's questions on if we are doing Chat GPT 3 or 4, and Priya's question on the consumption of
right.
clipboard. So I'll get back to you on that. On a same note, this is a good opportunity for our community to have further sessions on Clipboard AI and as well as generative extractor. Opportunity for us to do sessions, on Gen AI extractor. We can just do a studio session if you like to do that. So if you have that QR code, please do give us a feedback on what you'd like to see, and we can implement them in our future sessions.
Right. Thanks for the answer with that one. And then another one came in from Ashok. Customers are not quite comfortable about storing their personal identification information on Orchestrator like in a queue. How can I convince them about data security and privacy on AI data handling?
Thanks a lot, Diana. This is a very common question that everybody asks for, right? When we speak the word Gen AI, the first thing that a client or even an IT person, the first thing that they would come to mind is security. So one thing that you're talking about is the PII data, personal identification information data. So first and foremost, when you need to feed data, PII is something we take out because it's personally identifiable. So you cannot input them into a Gen AI or any kind of AI model. That's where you need to do data engineering to think about what you're going to feed in and what you're not. So when it comes to PII or any other sensitive data, it's imperative that you take them out of your um, AI model. You cannot feed sensitive information into it, but you can feed, publicly available information, but not the sensitive information and personally identified ones. So that's something to note when you build a AI model. But if you talk about the bigger picture, how the security and privacy is governed within an infrastructure, um, UiPath has a full documentation on the AI trust layer. I can actually share that with you. That's a good identifier for you to know how the data actually is incorporated within the UiPath infrastructure. And I will share that on the link on our chat below.
Great.
All right.
So Sharon, that's all the questions I have from the chat. If anybody wants to open up their mics and ask anything else, please do.
Hi, maybe as a part of future session, I think this is based on the question on the implementation of AI. Uh, I mean, how we can explain internal security audit legal team about the implementation of AI, you specifically the document extraction or Gen AI based extractors and classifiers. So as much as shareable, how much you can provide to the public about how UiPath retains these documents, and then what are the trust layers that we have. I guess you shared that document as well, but I will review it. So those kind of detail, we can provide to internal team so they are comfortable with similar understanding on how this end-to-end works. Those kind of thing, if we can share it, probably further sessions, I guess that would also help adapt, these generative based AI's implementation within the companies.
Thanks a lot, VS, for the feedback. I think I also agree with you. Um, if you're in the AI space, it's very important for you to be educated with the security and the governance side of it. So sure, we will take into that into your feedback into account and make sure that we have future sessions, probably with maybe UiPath subject matter experts to talk deeper into how UiPath is handling security and governance when it comes to AI and generative AI. So thank you for the feedback. That's a very important subject to actually talk about.
Thank you.
So I've shared our QR code once again. If again, it's anonymous. If you want to, you can give us feedback on what you'd like to see in the future. And we take our feedback very seriously, and we would make sure to add those subject matter experts to come in and make sure that you are enabled to have a conversation with them as well. So I'll give this a couple of minutes and open the floor for any other questions that you may have. So one more question that Vinod asked: does on-prem automation suite provide GenAI extractor, and does it expose data to ChatGPT outside UiPath? So one thing that I want to reiterate is that generative extractor is within UiPath. So it's not something that they use ChatGPT with. ChatGPT is actually a separate product that OpenAI has developed. Generative Extractor is another separate product that UiPath is within the UiPath ecosphere. So the data the data that's called within GenAI Extractor is retained within UiPath. So that is a completely separate product to ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is OpenAI. And if we connect ChatGPT, that is through integration service. That means we want to connect outside if we need to. So that is a completely separate product to GenAI Extractor. I just want to rephrase that. And it should be on-prem automation suite. I'm not too sure because automation cloud is what's being vastly used, but it should be in on-prem, but I can check and confirm that with you. Awesome. So I would like to conclude our session for today. I want to thank everyone for joining our session. And thank you, Diana, for accommodating the session for the community. And I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week.
Thank you, Sharon. Great job. And thank you, everybody, for joining today.